Hi everyone, it's Vaishali Jha from the Caregena podcast, and here I am today with Mala Ramakrishnan, who is the founder and managing partner of Progressive Ventures, a seed stage venture firm that fuels the next wave of AI innovation. She is also the co-founder and president at Founders Creative, which is a nonprofit with over 10,000 founders, investors, and executives out of Silicon Valley that elevates underrepresented technologists. Mala is an entrepreneurial leader with 20 plus years experience in leadership roles in product engineering and marketing in companies of varied sizes. She's a three-time startup founder with successful exits and has outstanding ability at driving business strategy and establishing product market fit of enterprise products. She has hands-on technical ability and is gifted in commercializing deep tech. She holds a master's in computer science from Stanford University. Thank you so much for being here, Mala.
Thank you for having me, Vaishali.
Yeah, so my first question for you is what really drives you to do all of this great work, and what specific goals and aspirations do you have for the future?
Yeah, so I'll tell you what drives me. I feel like I have a life of privilege and advantage, and I want to give what I've received. That's basically what drives me. So if you think of my history, I come from a background in India where none of the women were allowed to go to college. They were not allowed to work. My own mom had to go on a hunger strike for a whole week just to be allowed to go to college. And I went to Stanford University. I've built and sold three product companies, worked for a number of years, had a successful career. Now I'm in my 40s, so I'm thinking, well, it's my turn to give back, right? And so what drives me is to build a venture firm that stands the test of time, that is able to fund women, because there's so few women actually, if you look at the number of founders who are successful. And that's 50% of the population, right? We have 50% of the population, and I want a woman to go IPO on Wall Street every single year. So
Yeah.
that's the mission of Progressive Ventures.
Definitely. And I feel like, especially nowadays, people are saying that women have come at the same level as men as per like salaries and also like kind of like managerial positions. But do you think that still holds the case? Even though with the emerging, political and activist movements and through, technology and innovative ideas going around through the AI boom.
Yeah, I don't think it's the case that we are being held behind, at least in the United States anymore. But if you see in the history what's happened, we've been held back systemically in every culture, in every region of the world, right? And so we have a disadvantage. And it's hard to understand what that feels like unless you're a woman, especially if you're the only woman in a room. And you'll see, even in the United States, as late as the 90s, a woman could not open a bank account without a male co-signer.
Mhm.
As late as the 70s, we didn't have voting rights. So we've been held behind and we don't have role models. We're afraid to have a voice and a seat at the table. We get heckled in public. This happens even to me today, right? All male environments really hard to get a voice and seat at the table and be heard and seen and acknowledged and be able to drive things for just the fact that we have a good idea or innovation. So I don't think it's an equal world just yet. And I don't think women make as much as men do. There are studies published on that. We do make lesser, especially women of color, that we have a disadvantage. And I think the way to fix it is not by victimizing yourself. The way to fix it is to step up and lead and grab every opportunity you can to change things for people to come, right? Which is kind of what I'm trying to do.
That's wonderful. And especially like as female founders, how do you think Gen Z or just especially high school students, college students, how could they support each other, like uplifting themselves to really think about like what can be changed in the world?
You have it right, right? You want to think about what is the change you want to bring in the world. And I'd say that people, especially girls, should take more STEM roles like you are, right? For some reason, I don't know what happens. But if you just look at the stats of people graduating, I think 50% of girls go to college and 50% of us graduate. At least in India, I think, for people of Asian origin like ourselves, we'll end up having more kids going into STEM.
Mm.
But then over a period of time, we'll end up not being in the top levels of hierarchies within organizations.
Yeah.
So for that to change, it's not just sufficient to be good in academics. You need to learn to get along with people and to be able to lead, be acknowledged as a leader. So to lead from behind without a title, but also to be selected as a leader.
Hmm.
And from my experience, no one's going to give you the leadership platter in your hands and say, okay, Vaishali, you're the new leader. It doesn't happen often. You have to build your platform, right? Which is you are going to be the one who owns the platform and therefore you're the leader. And need to do that often enough in order for you to get to a place where you are making a significant contribution, not just to yourself, but to your peers and everybody around you. And you're already doing that with the podcast, right? To start with.
Yeah, definitely. I think like as I started my podcast actually senior year. And I feel like just getting along with people as you mentioned, I think that's a big like way for an introvert like me to really step out of the comfort zone. Like growing up, I was such an introverted kid. I had like a small friend group and just kind of like reaching out to more people of like, different industries. You get to know what's really happening out there. And so this kind of leads to my second question. Like what challenges have you faced while, really um finding your path, from college to your career now?
Yeah, I think when I went to college, it was a very different time, right? The internet was a new thing. And um, software engineering and computer science was like the hottest thing on the planet. Nobody wanted to do artificial intelligence. So when I landed at Stanford University as a graduate student, I was a teaching assistant of artificial intelligence in 1999 because nobody wanted to work on AI. And so I got the job. But now it's the hottest job that everyone wants to be after. So what shaped my career trajectory is it's just passion in technology. It's like I think technology and high tech is my first love. And so that's really shaped it for me that right from day zero, I landed in the right domain that is a good fit for me.
Mhm.
And so I've taken career breaks. I've tried to do things outside high tech, but I always come back. It's like coming back to your first love, right? And so I've played a lot of different kinds of roles in it. And the Valley's been very, very supportive of it.
Yeah.
But you have to be versatile and you have to be very resilient. It's very hard to hold a job which is, with the same job for 40 years, like what my parents did, or any other industry might have. So you have to be very resilient to layoffs and firings and, discrimination at the cost of, it's also the number of hours you put in, which is not typical in other industries. But all through the passion has been the reason why I have, gotten to where I am. It's always been at the edge of my seat looking at new technologies. It's like a wave in the ocean. Like every day, new startups are created in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
Just so many companies being created every single day. So the opportunity is immense at innovation and creation here. And this is the place to be if you're a technologist.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially with the ChatGPT and a lot of these like Perplexity, like, especially for university students, like it's all free and people could use them as resources for like, unleashing new ideas. So I think it's a wonderful resource, especially living in Silicon Valley. And yeah, especially as you mentioned before, like as South Asians, right? What have you noticed, especially in the technology industry? That has kind of, where you might have to navigate through social barriers, and has impacted your leadership.
Yeah, I think the challenge has been that as I grow through the ranks, the number of women who are my age has gone down significantly. And so in the beginning, well, even in the beginning, when I was a software engineer, I worked in a job where I was the only female engineer for many, many years. And at that time, I didn't know that it was a odd problem. I just didn't know why I was struggling so much to be understood and to be seen and heard. But later, now, when I look back, it makes total sense that I was just different than the others. And so I was struggling. I don't hold any resentment or feel victimized because of that, though. And I think that's the critical part, right? We all have our gifts and we have our strengths, but we also have our disadvantages. And as humans, it's hard to know the depth of our gifts as much as to know the depths of our disadvantages. And so I play that really well, where I kind of minimize the disadvantages by saying that I have enough strengths to compensate for it or give myself an advantage in other ways. I meditate, I teach yoga, those things center me. It really helps me. But yeah, I also land up being the only woman in the room when I am in higher positions. Then last year, I consciously chose to move into venture capital and started my venture firm, which is doing phenomenally well. I think the world is ready for women to lead, right? They want us in the room now. And so this is our chance. Like all these years of struggle that I've had, finally people are opening up doors and saying, let's give you a chance. You have the ability, you have the talent, I have the experience. So why not leverage all of those, right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially for like finance, right? Like especially, being investors in the Silicon Valley, I feel like many girls don't really know that like kind of like career or position. And so what would you recommend to people who may be, just graduating college, who may be interested in VC?
I think to get into venture capital, you need to work in the industry for a while, right? Because it's an industry that's going to give back. But so first you need to have received. I'd say pick something in high tech where you're contributing and building as an operator first, ideally as a software engineer, a product manager, a marketer, sales, pre-sales, any of these roles. A solid 6 to 7 years, I'd say, if you're a fresh grad. And build those relationships. Like every person you meet and you work with is going to be somebody important in their lives in high tech. You'd be amazed at how quickly the industry changes and
Mm.
how people around you evolve and grow and become in positions of power, who are the ones who'll give you your next leg in.
Yeah.
So value the people as much as the job and the technology, and start keeping an eye on the trends in the industry. Um, Making a break into venture capital is really hard because you need to have the money to do it. And so you first need to go and earn the money to do it. And then you could become a limited partner in a fund. And as an investor, you can then learn the ropes and then slowly make your way up. Um, the other option is to go serve as an analyst, and that's another long ride up. Um, I didn't do it, so I don't know what that's like, but I wouldn't recommend it. I think being an operator is much more meaningful and you'd learn a lot more. Yeah.
I think that's yeah, like especially like going into like, operating and analytics, especially like maybe getting a major in data science. I think those are like wonderful options for especially Gen Z to take a career in. Yeah, I'd love to know more about what really got you into like, your startups that you made exits from. Like, what were they focused on? And especially, like, I'm a startup founder myself. I've started an AI-based mental health therapy product. It's still in pre-seed and prototyping stage, but I'd love to know more about what would you recommend to um, yeah, just more young startup founders.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good time to innovate and start your own company because you have resources at your disposal, right? And it's a time when you can get credits and just spin a cluster up in the cloud and start programming already. Or even better, you can get something to do the code for you, right? Like Copilot or one of these.
Yeah.
Cursor. So I think everyone should build a product to learn at this point in history. What got me started is encouragement from people who believed in me, right? The first time I got a a venture capitalist gave me money, and that's why I started it. Second time, a venture capitalist invited me to be an EIR, and that's why I did it. Third time, a customer of a big Fortune 500 company said they had a business pain and they would fund the product. And so every time I kind of followed the money, honestly, rather than just have an idea, because you have a million ideas a day.
Mhm.
You need to validate it. So I'd say you need to fall in love with the problem and find customers. And if the customers are willing to pay for it, then you have a business. Yeah.
Definitely. And I think I was recently in a program called Innovators in Residence at Berkeley, and this is kind of what they focused on as well. It was really focused on, like ideating and then prototyping, and then afterwards having the right customer persona, which would kind of attract investors. And I found it so valuable. Like I was helping out like different student teams, and it was a wonderful experience. And yeah, I think especially yeah, like especially like going into more leadership roles, I think one needs to really gain that valuable experience, whether it be through marketing or technical expertise. It like you need to know the both of them, right? So how did you navigate both sides, like technical and marketing as a founder?
Yeah, it's quite funny actually, because I was a software engineer first and I worked for almost 7 years, including the product company that I started. Um, just in hardcore tech, senior software engineer and then technical architect. And all through, I was one of the only women in the room, and I used to see all the women were in marketing having a good time together. And that's why I moved into marketing. So I moved for all the wrong reasons, but also the right reasons, because I made a lot of friends at work.
Yeah.
And I went up the rungs in product marketing. I worked for 10 years in marketing, in product marketing. So I learned on the job a lot of frameworks to use, how to do demand generation, how to do pre-sales, sales enablement. Um, it's a skill like any other, and it's great to be able to work in high tech and just learn those skills. That's the beauty of our tech industry, that you can just navigate into different departments and learn so many things. And then when I moved back and started my second company in product as a product manager, I was just knew how to run the business because I'd already spent 10 years doing marketing. So transition was seamless. And now I think I'm super well rounded, right? I could be CTO. I've been CTO. I've been CM. I've been CTO. I've reported to a CMO. I've been Chief Product Officer. I've run three companies, of which one I was a CEO. And so I just have all the experience needed to run companies and business units. Um, so now is my time to empower others. So I run an accelerator program. My co-founder does full time, and I support him. And through the accelerator, we are trying to get more women to start companies and support them to go IPO on Wall Street. That's the mission.
That's wonderful. And yeah, as you mentioned, like being well-rounded, right? Kind of like, as high school students, we're like well-rounded for all college applications. And
Oh gosh.
even though it's like so tiring, you still don't get into like your dream college.
No, so the thing is, I did my well-rounded over the years, right? For 25 years I've
Yeah.
taken. I'd spent 7, 8 years in software engineering, like really deep tech,
Yeah.
and then another 10 years in product marketing, and then another 7 years in product management. So
My
it's
gosh.
not like college applications where you're like, I can play sport and I can swim and I can also ski, but I'm also an all-around A grader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like nowadays these resumes are insane. So I guess like my main question kind of is like, for someone who's dreaming of becoming like, as you mentioned, like a CEO or just like any leader in general, would one have to really attain like skills from each different like skills of expertise, like in different industries, as you mentioned, like, transferring from engineering to management to marketing. Do you think it's necessary for one to have these skills?
Absolutely not. I think it's a very personal choice. I have friends who've just been in engineering all through, become CTO, and that's what they like to do. I could not do it. I could not sleep at night when I was in engineering because I wanted to get out and learn what it's like to run a business. And the longer I stayed in marketing, I just couldn't do it anymore because I was just bored of, doing marketing. And I didn't want to do some jobs in marketing. Like demand generation doesn't come easy to me. Um, and so I moved back into product management. And product management is completely new field, honestly. And I think I struggled a bit in product because I didn't have the early years of the junior PM roles. Should you do it? I would not have chosen otherwise. When I look back at it, I have no regrets. I think if I had not moved, I would have been very unhappy and regretful that I didn't. Um, and that's kind of why I've been able to naturally transition to become a venture capitalist. And even in this one, think of it, I'm starting a venture firm from scratch. Not a lot of people do it. I don't recommend it. It's insanely hard. Um, I just seem to like hard things and I seem to like to, I seem to be good at it. So why not?
Definitely. It's really about having that attitude. Like you go to the gym, you got to work out, you got to work hard and do it as much as you can to get the perfect results. So, another question I had.
That's not the reason I do it. I don't do it for the results, right? Or it's like it's keeping your eyes on the reason why rather than saying I have to do this and get to the work. It becomes that, oh, I want to like see more women go IPO on Wall Street, or I want to see that product being built. And
Uh,
that's why I built it, right? So you kind of like keep your eyes on the goal,
yeah.
and then you're so attracted to that goal that you're like, okay, I'm going to do everything it takes to get there.
Yeah, I think it's actually wonderful nowadays. Like even just in Berkeley or just in Stanford, I've seen so many like startups, woman founded. They like specifically say woman founded, and I'm just like kind of like feeling so like uplifted.
Yeah.
I feel like if there's like so many like very cool genius like people in high school and they get into college and they're just trying to get their degree and get out, right? And get the tech job. And they don't re and like realize their potential of they can do so much more. Like I feel like especially people who are starting like making their own like startups in high school and stuff, right? And then they kind of degrade down because of everything else. Like I feel like just keeping up with that and also like having the attitude that, oh, I can do it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think people go through different phases in life, though, right? You get tired sometimes, you want to take a break. Especially if you started a company in high school, I would think you're extremely exhausted, other than the
Yeah.
sport and the college applications and everything. I'm guessing the companies that was started was to help you get into college, perhaps. And
Yeah, I feel
it's
like
okay. It's okay to take a break and just do nothing but just try and graduate and get out.
yeah, definitely. Like I've seen so many people like in high school, especially just posting regularly on LinkedIn. They're like, "Oh, I started like this company today,
Wow.
like focused on AI." And it's like, just like generally like what like how do you survive with everything else?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, whatever, different paths, different people, different journeys, important. Yeah.
yeah. And then yeah, I guess like what do you suggest like for a leader to have like as per like five main qualities as maybe like as you've heard like what do you think are five qualities that a leader should have?
Mm. I don't think there is a list like that that's universal for everybody. It's for each person to craft his or her own. And what I do know is that a human being will not be happy unless they lead.
Hmm.
Human beings were meant to lead. If you go and see people who are depressed or unhappy, it's usually because they have not fulfilled their desires and they've not been given a chance to do it because they have not been the leader to be empowered to do it. And so I'd say, even if you're a leaf on a tree, you should lead,
Hmm.
And so that's the first quality. The minute you say, I care and I lead, then you need to think of what are you going to lead? You're going to think of a problem that you want to solve and you want to fall madly in love with that problem. That's when you lead, right?
Yeah.
You're leading some mission or some greater uh, vision towards which you want to work. And so people will rally around you if you have that vision. You can't just be a leader with nothing to chase after.
Yeah.
And so if you have a problem and you've fallen madly in love with the problem, then People will follow you. And at that point, you'll see all the qualities of leadership will manifest. You will become a clear spokesperson. You will be given all the strengths needed. People will be attracted by your influence. You'll have the skills needed to do marketing and sales, right? All of that will come up. So I guess, really to summarize, rather than think of it as five, think of it that to be happy, you need to lead. And therefore, you have to say, yes, I'm a leader. But now what? What are you going to lead? You're going to think of the problem you have to lead, just to solve in the world. And you have to be madly in love with the problem. And the problem and the mission to solve it becomes larger than you, then all the qualities that you think are important for a leader will manifest.
Yeah.
That's been my experience over and again.
Yeah, definitely. And especially as you mentioned, like having a balance, right? People do get tired out and understanding there's burnout in so many different conditions of either working too much or just overstressing. So I feel like just finding the right balance for whatever career one chooses should be, really feasible for them. Yeah, so do you have any last words that you like to give out to the audience?
Yeah, I think the other thing that you're talking about burnout often is to think of it's like balancing on a bicycle.
Mhm.
You will fall initially because you're trying out too many things. The weight will be too much on one side versus another, but eventually you have to continuously balance in order to be able to thrive.
Mhm.
And in order for that to happen, you have to have some practice to which you can come back over and again to be able to center yourself. And I would encourage you to meditate. Meditation, Art of Living is a program that offers meditation courses. I teach meditation through the Art of Living. Really makes a huge difference to meditate every day, just for 10 minutes, just, become centered, come back. Then the balancing act becomes easier because of which you can be more effective in everything you do. Because you get burnt out when the amount of work you need to do is greater than the amount of energy that you have. And so when you meditate, then you are becoming fully aware, but also you're gaining energy like sleep. And so then, you are more effective in everything that you do. And so that would be my parting word.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I've done a few art of living courses as well, and it's been
Oh,
so
great.
relaxing. Yeah. I became a wellness coach last year, part of the VTP. So I feel
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been pretty nice, I'd say. It really did open my eyes, and I'd highly recommend it to anyone who's in, turning 18 or higher. It's been like a wonderful journey, especially, coming out of COVID. Everyone was so tranquilized in their
Oh,
own room.
yeah.
And coming out, it's like, you forget how to socialize. So, yeah, well, thank you so much for being here today, Mala, and I'd love to stay in touch.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. And I would love to stay in touch with you too.
Awesome.